Here we go. How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? We are playing Dagon by H.P. Lovecraft. It's based on a short story that H.P. Lovecraft did. Face unspeakable horror, succumb to madness. Welcome to the free demonic experience inspired by H.P. Lovecraft. So the company, it's an independent person, Bill Golem, which it's weird that he's making this type of game because the game he made before this was a virtual fishing simulator. So going from virtual fishing simulator to this is very interesting. On the side, there is DLC already out for this. There's the Eldritch Box DLC, which gives you the actual short story and some other goodies. I think it's like $5. There's the little glass bottle, which I think is a picture that H.P. Lovecraft drew when he was like 7. And then Tales of Herring Lake is the latest game that this individual is working on. Let's give you the about the game. There will be a VR version of this available in October. We are in October. I don't think this is out yet, but it will be available and it will be free. This game is also free. So let's read the about. I am writing this with unapproachable mental strain since tonight I shall be no more. Dagon is a 3D narrative experience in the madness of an occult story of the same title by the master of cosmic horror and weird fiction, H.P. Lovecraft himself, is an interactive portal to the open world of controversial genius in this highly acclaimed Cthulhu mythos, open to both newcomers and longtime devotees. Step into the shoes of the former ship officer, morphine fiend, and dive into the stagnant abyss, drug-addicted mind, uncover unspeakable, long-drowned horrors in a distant eldritch island, and wallow in Lovecraftian dread. So make yourself comfortable in front of the screen and put on your VR headset. That's not out yet. 100% adaptation of the original story. It will only take 30 minutes, but you will never look at the ocean the same way. Features. Immerse yourself in a fully voiced narration experience in real-time 3D. Discover the origin of the Cthulhu mythos and the twisted world of H.P. Lovecraft. Treat yourself to a short free horror that can be experienced in 30 minutes. We'll see. Learn about the original story and author and the impact and cultural, etc. while playing. Buy additional DLC to support our future projects and to get additional goodies, including an audiobook and a screenshot-filled ebook. Warning, side effects may include insomnia, delirium, and acute cosmic horror. The tags for this game are action. No, I'm sorry. That is not true. The tags for this game are horror, Lovecraftian, atmospheric, and visual novel. It reads out to me, so hopefully I don't have to read it like I usually do. Continue. I just started for a couple seconds to see how it is. I didn't go. He started talking. I was like, oh, no. But we're going to start from the beginning. Let's see how this goes. Oh, there's credits. Oh, so there is options. You can choose your resolution all the way around. Full screen, VSync, motion blur, anti-aliasing, gamma effects, sound, voiceover, your Y-axis, your control vibrations. I'm not playing with a controller. Camera sensitivity, text size, language, save and exit. There's trivia, which I'm guessing gets unlocked as you play. So let's start it. And I'm, of course, okay with that because it's faithful to interactive of H.P. Lovecraft's literary for focus on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here. Inventory management here. The mode and movement is limited to progressing through the locations along the plot.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Oh, he's gonna die. During the game, you will encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey. Others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. So little circles with that, little question marks with that. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look through for the elder sign, which is, I'm guessing, is that little like branch thingy. You can use your mouse, which is your right button, and on your controller, it's your left trigger. You can also access the found facts later on. They will be available in the main menu.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Morphine entered into the use of the 19th century as was originally administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War and World War. It was also sold without restriction until 1914. Morphine became more popular after the invention of hypodermic syringe around 1845. Frederick Strucker, who first isolated the substance, originally named it morphium, after Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. Also, the name of the character in Neil Gaiman's The Sandman, which is being made into a Netflix series. At the same time, when Dagon was published, morphine abuse, known as a soldier's disease, was already possessed a big problem in the United States.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
Can't really walk, just camera movement.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
The Huns. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors, masters of quick raids who developed powerful composite bows, lassoons, and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on the 27th July 1900. Before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years the Huns under their king Attila made a name of themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed in such a way that no Chinese will ever again dare look cross-eyed at a German. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of laws, and customs were adopted during the first Hague Convention of 1899. I keep hitting the wrong button. It told me to zoom, but it's not. They told me the wrong button.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Hold on, let's just make sure I have seen everything.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Hold on. Just seeing if there's anything else. Nope.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
This man did not think he was dying.
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
It's all right.
The change happened whilst I slept.
Uh-oh, ominous music.
Its details I shall never know.
Oh, it's even more ominous.
For my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Oh, there it is. Oh god, there are so many squids.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away.
Where is my boat? Oh, that's my boat.
Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity.
That is just creepy with the moving and whatnot.
There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Ew. Origins of Dagon. Dagon seems to be inspired by Fishhead, a short novel by Irvin S. Cobb about unnatural affinities between the hybrid idiot and the strange fish of an isolated lake, supernatural horror in literature, H.P. Lovecraft. And Lovecraft's dream about a strange island emerging from the ocean and him crawling in the ooze that covered its surface. I dreamed that whole hideous crawl and can yet feel ooze sucking me down. In deference to Dragon, H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft's interest in the topic stemmed from his aversion to fish and sea smells, in his own words. I have hated fish and feared the sea and everything connected to it since I was 2 years old, but I cannot recall what earlier experience gave me such a profound and lasting aversion to the sea and seafood. The Dweller in Darkness, Lovecraft, 1927, Donald Rundery. That squeaky sound.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position. Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
Always looking for the question marks.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
I don't like that.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Okay, let's keep going. Ah!
All day I forged steadily westward,
What the hell?
guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
What's with these fossils? I don't see anything. That's a whale! Oh, that's creepy.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Looks a little closer. Oh, here we go. Horrors of the Ocean. The creator of Cthulhu mythos and the fictional underwater city of R'lyeh was convinced that life could not exist at the bottom of the ocean because water pressure could make it uninhabitable. Today we know that the darkest depths of the ocean are home to many peculiar organisms. The deepest dwelling fish we have discovered so far, the Mariana snailfish, can live about 8,000 meters, more than 26,000 feet, below the ocean surface, in never-ending darkness and in the hellish crushing pressures, hundreds of times stronger than those found at sea level. Upon glancing at the modern photos of deep-sea creatures, such as the anglerfish and the fangtooth, or the viperfish, their truly Lovecraftian characteristics, it's hard not to find some of the irony in this. Oh, I would not walk over that part.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again, and in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
Anything else? Any little facts? No? Okay.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night.
So that thing that the world was flat during Columbus Day was not very true. A lot of people actually knew the world was round during that time. Columbus was just a flat earther himself, but the people, and they had expected the world to be round even during that time. I believe it was even during like Copernicus's time that they thought the world was round.
Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
Bueller?
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual. Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon. That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Hey guys, so I was trying to edit this video for a long time and it kept not being allowed to let me put this up as one part. It was going to be like a 41-minute video. So this is the end of part one. This is my character in Minecraft. I'm just using him to talk to you. So stay tuned for part two. It should be available in the next day or two. Bye. Peace out. Subscribe.